the WikiLeaks release of the secret CIA files detailing hacking tools the government uses to break into computers, mobile phones, even smart TVs. Some of those included were Apple's iPhones and iPads, the Android phones from Google, Microsoft Windows operating systems. All of this was detailing this. Of course, the CIA, it's illegal, supposedly, for the CIA to spy on American citizens domestically. You know, the Central Intelligence Agency is supposed to be involved with foreign threats to our national security, and how this line has gotten blurred and how we can protect ourselves from this spying. And to that now we go to Dallas-Fort Worth attorney Shawn Tuma, who specializes in cybersecurity, data protection, and we are pleased to welcome him to the program now. Shawn, this is Gary Jeff with you on News Radio 700 WLW. How are you?
I'm doing great, Gary. How are you?
Fantastic. Fortunately, I don't have a smart TV, and I can barely operate my BlackBerry. But with the revelations through the WikiLeaks secret CIA files release, it's pretty scary for even the average American, is it not?
It is scary for the average American, but probably for reasons they don't understand. You know, you and I and the average American, we really don't have the CIA looking at what we do, or at least we hope not.
Yeah.
If we do, we have much bigger problems.
Sure.
But the problem is that a lot of the same techniques and the same vulnerabilities that have now been publicized are things that criminal gangs and other hackers use all of the time to try to access us, you know, our webcams, our voice connections, things of that nature. And they're the ones who pose the biggest threat because they're trying to steal our information to commit harm against us.
Oh, even things like nanny cams and baby monitors are vulnerable, are they not?
Absolutely. Anything that's connected to the Internet and transmits data can be intercepted at some level.
There was a story this morning. This doesn't pertain to this necessarily, but it's still something to look out for. A Canadian manufacturer of a device called WeVibe, which is adult sex toys. They're smart sex toys, and the company was using them to track intimate details of users' lives without the customer's knowledge. I mean, it's amazing the can of worms that has opened up the more technology grows and advances. So how do we protect ourselves from anything like that?
Well, you know, I blogged about that about 6 months ago. So
oh, did you?
I'm familiar with that one, yeah. And it's very interesting, but the whole thing comes down to this. We like to talk about the CIA issue because it has espionage and intrigue, and it sounds real James Bondish.
Yeah.
But most of the hacks, most of the data loss events that we see anywhere, up to 90%, involve nothing to do with that kind of sophisticated attacking. It's getting into people's devices and accounts through very basic, simple means such as social engineering and phishing emails, which are those that deceive us into clicking into links or downloading attachments. It's not having good, strong passwords or having them written on your keyboard. It's things like security questions that you can look up the answers to on Google, which happens to a lot of celebrities. And then not using multi-factor authentication. That has been shown to almost eliminate data loss type, hacking type events because it makes it twice as hard and a lot more random of how they can get into your accounts.
Right. So how does the average person protect themselves? And number one, you're talking about clicking onto links, you know, without actually knowing what they're about. I mean, there's some obvious stuff that if you actually took time to think about it, even an extra 5 seconds, you wouldn't do because it would, you know, it would open up those doors that you're talking about, the back doors. But how do we keep ourselves from being in that position? You
just nailed it. If we stop to think. And that's what we have to do as a nation, is we have to make education on cybersecurity risk a top priority and teach people how to think about these things. And people have to learn for themselves to educate themselves on these type of risks and learn to think about it, because the hackers are always evolving their techniques. So you can't just say, look for the Nigerian prince like we could 10 years ago.
Right.
Now it's look for someone pretending to be FedEx or PayPal or a business partner whose email has been hijacked. Those kind of things, and that comes through education. And really, as a nation, we have to bring education to our schools, start teaching children. We have to bring it to our elderly people, start teaching them. And that's how we're going to start protecting people.
And the elderly are particularly at risk because as the new technology comes out, like my mom and dad, who are 80 and 79, respectively. My dad's 80, my mom's 79. Came in for a visit a couple of weeks ago, and they were asking my wife and I to help them with their smartphones because they didn't understand what's going on. The newer the technology and the older the person, and it's not, I'm not going to lump everybody into one category as being illiterate because I'm somewhat illiterate when it comes to smart technology. In fact, I would classify myself as being very illiterate as compared to some of my friends. But older people are more vulnerable, are they not?
They are. They're what we call, we have digital natives, people who grow up with the stuff and are used to it, and those who are not. And I had a case recently where an elderly couple did have someone come in, call them on the phone, tell them they were there to help them get viruses off of their computer, and gave them a code that they used to enter into the computer to then take over their computer and do harmful activities. They're trusting. They don't understand the technology, and they don't understand the threats and the risks that are out there. And that applies to all of us at some level.
Right. I just saw a story this week. We had the story on Monday about how Facebook quizzes can be an open door to having your information hacked.
Absolutely, because I saw the same story where when you're sharing those quizzes and you're entering information, you think it's all in good fun, but the people behind those have an agenda. They're doing that to collect information, to gain access to your computers, your contacts, and then spread that.
Well, with the release from WikiLeaks of the CIA information, do you think it's good that the light is being shined on that so maybe the federal government can take more of a role in protecting American citizens?
There is an element of good that does come out of it through the raising of awareness. Yeah. And, the education is really something. I'm part of a group called the Cyber Future Foundation, and one of our missions is to try to bring education into the schools and to get state help, local district help, and federal help on doing that. And so if we can use an event such as this that undoubtedly does harm as well through the release, but take the good from it and use that to further education, then I think we're going to have made lemonade out of our lemons.
Is there anything else besides education that people could do right now to protect their data?
Yes. One, make sure your passwords are sufficiently, strong. You don't use 1234. Don't use 8675309, and you probably remember that song. A lot of people do.
Jenny.
Yeah, that's right. Don't use things like that. Hackers know our tendencies. We're humans. We repeat our nature, over and over. Use something complex that's a string that doesn't make sense. Don't use the same password across multiple accounts, because whenever there's a breach of an account and they collect passwords, they then try those with your other credentials, and so they know that. And really, people have to stop clicking on links. Links in emails lead to more breaches than probably anything else. And then absolutely enable multi-factor authentication on any device and account that you care about protecting.
Well, because even somebody that that sends you an email, they may not know that the link they're sending you contains malware or anything else.
That's right.
It can be totally innocent that your friend is sending you something that has a link to it. Check this out. It's cool. You click on it, and unbeknownst to you, unbeknownst to your friend that sent you the link, you're in it deep at that point.
Yeah, and we've had a case here in Texas where an attorney had their email account compromised, And the hackers then used their email account to send around, literally internationally, emails that contained an attachment that said summons, which any lawyer is going to open because you think you have to file an answer.
Yeah.
And it contained malware. And so the attorney whose email it was didn't even know about it at the time, and it was not until later that all these other law firms started having this malicious attack, and they traced it back to that.
Shawn Tuma, how can people get in touch with you if they have further questions? Do you have a contact?
I do. I have a blog that has all of my information on it, and it's real easy. It's www.ShawnETuma.com. That's ShawnETuma.com.
All right. Fantastic. I appreciate your time today and some good information. All right?
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Shawn Tuma, thank you. We'll take a break and come back. Gary Jeffin for Sloaney. News Radio 700 WLW.